I can't do this with one hand. So it's been a few days since I returned from Anime Expo, and I wanted to make a video going through my first Anime Con experience, because this trip to Anime Expo was a lot of firsts for me. I haven't been on a plane since I was like 2 years old, or maybe even younger than that. So it was my first real plane trip, going across the country, which is something I hadn't done before. First anime convention, so there were a lot of firsts for me for this trip. So I did kind of want to document my experiences and talk about what what I accomplished at Anime Expo, besides getting this awesome shirt from Team 4-Star. I guess before I dive into that, I should give a clarification that regular videos will be coming back soon. I gotta get that Neji video done, and then I guess I'll do the hypocrisy thing part 3 after that. But a lot's been going on lately, so that's why you've been getting these weird stuff like the anime cipher, but the actual content that I assume you're here for will be back soon. So the first day, obviously, I went to the airport, the Baltimore airport, and I went there, and I was more stressed out about the flight than I needed to be, because as I said, it was my first time flying out in forever. Basically my first time being conscious of flying, so I'd heard all these, stories about like airport security and stuff, so I was like, oh god, I'm not gonna make it through, I'm gonna end up missing my flight, and I'm not gonna know where things are. But it was actually smooth sailing. Yeah, everything about like the flight, the airport, everything there was fine, except like I guess on the way back, like when I got into the San Diego airport, I misread the signs and I walked out of the airport, so I had to go through security twice. But other than that, everything was good. So I flew out from Baltimore, went over yonder to Las Vegas, and then I had a connecting flight there. So then I went from Vegas to San Diego, and from that airport, I got picked up by Manime Matt and his buddy. So yeah, I got to meet up with Manime Matt, and that was cool. The thing about like meeting with Matt as opposed to say someone like Kraftsdorf, who I did also see over there, was that Matt shows his face in pretty much all of his videos at the very end, so seeing him in person it didn't feel weird. So it's like, yeah, of course, this is Man Matt, that makes sense. But even like Kraftsdorf, where I knew what he looked like, I saw the picture with him in Best Guy Ever, but even still meeting him for the first time when we met up at our Airbnb, it was like, oh my god, you're real. So yeah, that was a little weird, but cool. It was cool. I got to meet up with cool people. Anyways, to get back in the chronological order, I got picked up by Matt at the airport. We went over to his place. He drove me back, so that was cool. I didn't have to spend, I don't know how much money it would have been on an Uber for like an hour drive. So it would not have been pleasant. So yeah, he picked me up. We went to his place. I spent the night there. Then in the morning, we took off for LA. It was about a 2-hour drive-ish, maybe a little less than that actually, because traffic wasn't bad. And we had a full car, so I was like packed in the middle, just like, I was like all bunched up because I was the smallest. And we got there. First day was basically just going around, scoping out the con, seeing where everything is. See, I was pretty busy for most of this trip because I had to figure out where everything was, and then I had to there were things I wanted to do. I didn't end up getting a lot of merch because I just didn't really have much time. There was like the first day that probably would have been the best time to get merch, but I was trying to figure out where everything was because I had never been to the Anime Expo before. So we walked around the dealer's hall for a bit, checked out, like Artist Alley for a bit, but there wasn't much time for me to actually get any merch that first day because I was just trying to figure out where everything was. And while we were there, we met up with 2 guys who I guess run an anime podcast called Anime Summit, or maybe it's not specifically an anime podcast, but it's a podcast called Anime Summit. So we met up with those 2 guys. I don't remember the real names. We also met up with Mr. Cynical. So that was cool. We got to meet up with a couple of people on the first day, went out and had lunch. And then we were late getting back to our Airbnb because Matt and I we didn't do a very good job at keeping track of time. So the Airbnb was pretty cool. It was my first time. That's another first. My first time using an Airbnb, and that was pretty nice. I have a like very small experience with like regular hotels, because again I don't travel much. But it was good. So the first day really wasn't all that eventful because we went back to the B&B and then we went back over to the con. I was hanging out with Craftsdwarf. Matt ended up splitting off, going to do his own thing at one point. So I think Craftsdwarf and I ended up in this, what was it, like AI learning in anime or something? Something about like, it was a panel about like AI like making the drawings in anime and stuff and like coloring and whatnot. Just, you know, the usage of machine learning in anime. And I guess that was, it was okay. I wasn't all that interested in it. It wasn't, yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't, I was just kind of there because we didn't really know what to do for the rest of that evening. And Craftsdwarf was like, hey, what about this panel? This looked interesting to him. So we went there and that was all right. That was day one of Anime Expo. It was all right. I'm so disappointed in myself because there were a couple of interesting tidbits I neglected to mention. Like, the quote when I first got into California, or we were driving to the con and it was daylight so I could actually see what California looked like. And my exact quote was, yeah, California looks like a state that's been on fire. The other thing I neglected to mention was the hallway chats impromptu meetup. The hallway chats minus Bryant, we were there. Actually, it wasn't totally uneventful because also on that first day was my first time trying to Uber. And the very first Uber I called in picked up someone else, and so yeah, I was able to get a refund for that trip. But yeah, the first time I ever called in an Uber, it picked up someone else. So then we had to call in another one. So that was a fun adventure trying to figure out how that stuff works. Yeah, then we had day 2 of the convention, which would have been Friday. And Friday was a fun day because Friday was the Liz and the Bluebird screening, and that was an adventure. Oh, I guess I will say that I'll have like pictures and video where relevant, what I was able to get. Because I wanted to take a few more pictures at AX, but I didn't because, you know, it's kind of shy. I don't want to bother people to, you know, like, when you're just hanging out with someone, it is a little weird to just kind of say, hey, can I take this picture? I know for me personally, I'm not big on like having my picture taken. You know, when you're just hanging out with people and then it's like, okay, let's stop what we're doing and take this picture, is a little weird. So or maybe I'm just overthinking it. So I didn't take a whole lot of pictures. I took a few, but not too many. Yeah, so Friday was the day of the Liz and the Bluebird screening. Before that happened, Craftsdwarf went off to meet up with What the What, and I ended up meeting up with Taser Lad, who was a pretty cool dude. That was one of the, I don't want to say one of the few people, but going to AX, I knew I was going to meet up, or at least I was hoping to meet up with a bunch of creators, and I follow the community. You know, I'm not the most immersed in the community, I'm not the pedantic romantic, but I'm up there. I try to follow as many channels as I can, as many channels as I'm interested in, I guess, because I don't follow the bigger ones as much, just because I'm not as interested in their content. But even then, like, obviously I would know who Giguk is, because Giguk shows his face in his videos, but, you know, there were people there who I was able to recognize their face. Like, obviously, I would know who Lachlan is. Subtitled anime, I was able to recognize at the Liz and the Bluebird screening, so that was cool. But Taser Lad was one of those guys who doesn't show his face on camera, and I don't think has really put his face out there ever. So I didn't know who he was really, like what he looked like. So that was cool to meet up with him. I didn't find him; he pretty much just found me. So that helped as well, because, you know, otherwise, when you know what someone looks like, you can just say, hey, you know, okay, we'll meet up at this place. But otherwise, it's like, okay, what are you wearing? So, like, I had on a black shirt like this, but it was a Vegeta shirt, because at the time, that was the only anime merch. I guess technically it really is still the only anime t-shirt I have, because Team 4-Star isn't anime. They do other things. That's a disappointment, though. I wasn't able to get much merch there, which, you know, pros and cons. I didn't spend a ton of money at the convention, but at the same time, I don't really have that, like, this was my chance to get some merch, which I guess I can get anime merch anywhere, but the sentimental value of getting it at Anime Expo, I don't have that. So I chatted with Taser Lad for a bit. He's a cool guy. Check out his channel and stuff, because he's cool. And then after that, went to go meet up with the Pedantic Romantic and Zaria, and there were just a bunch of people at the Liz and the Bluebird screening. Not that I actually got the chance to really talk to many of them. I just kind of ended up getting isolated amidst the group. And even the group I was gonna go with, Kraftsdorf, was, you know, he was off with What the What, and so they ended up getting pushed like a row ahead and like way off to the side because they had all these seats for other people. So I ended up getting in like before this big group came in and filled up the row, so I was just kind of there, and yeah. But I did get to meet up with, I did get to have a bit of a conversation with some people. Like I said, I met Subtitled Anime there. Didn't have much of a conversation with him. I was just like, hey, you're Subtitled Anime, right? Hey, nice to meet you, yeah. So that was about the extent of that, which is a little disappointing. I wanted to, I guess no matter what I would have done, really, I would have probably had some level of disappointment with the con, because I can't, you know, meet up with everybody, and I can't spend like every moment that I'm at the con hanging out with some people to really like maximize my time there. But I got to at least talk to some people, even if just like a brief, hey, introduction. It's better than nothing. I sat next to Juju, which is a channel I hadn't heard of before. They make anime videos, starting a series on PA Works. So that was cool. Got to meet with someone new, find a new channel for new source of anime, AniTube content. Mr. Nice Guy was also there, but he was pretty busy for most of the time trying to make sure that everybody in that row kind of got to their seats. So I didn't really get to talk with Mr. Nice Guy that much, which is a little disappointing, but there will be other conventions in the future. I'm sure I'll get another chance, so I'm not going to get too bent out of shape and not literally meeting everybody that was there. So then the Liz and the Bluebird screening, well, actually before the screening, because the panel beforehand had gotten canceled, I guess. I think it was something with like High Dive, but it must have gotten canceled because they were just letting people into the room, which, you know, does, I guess, cause some problems, because that kind of ended up backfiring on me. So karma got me in the end, because I wasn't able to go to the Makia screening, because I think something similar happened where they didn't clear out the room beforehand, and they were letting people in way before the panel. So by the time I had the chance to actually get in line, it was booked. It was full, so I couldn't do that for Makia. But I was able to get into the Liz and the Bluebird screening, which, I mean, really, that was like my only plan for like the beginning of that day. So it worked. It was fine. So I was able to get in for the Liz screening. They had that pre-panel where the tech crew was just bored, and shenanigans ensued. You had someone came up dressed up as 02 and dislocated their shoulders, which was, it was like they called it like a talent, like an impromptu sort of talent show type thing. So that happened. There was the guy who, if you've been on Twitter, I'm sure you've heard this story, but there was the guy with the loaf of bread who's like, hey, I'll pay someone $5 to eat my loaf of bread in front of this crowd of people. Someone tried, they failed miserably. It wasn't good, but I don't know, like, you had to be there. It was really weird. Then some guy dressed up as John Cena was trying to do some stand-up, and that happened. And then they must have gotten cut off, because it was like, okay, no, we're stopping this. I don't know if someone got word and was like, okay, this is not, this type of shenanigans shouldn't be happening at AX, because then it stopped there. And then we just waited, and then the Liz and the Bluebird screening happened, and I guess this is where I can take a break and have, you know, a spoiler warning to talk about Liz and the Bluebird, give my review of Liz and the Bluebird, because it was a great film. Hibike Euphonium is pretty good in general. Not one of my favorite works in anime, but it's pretty good. I've always had a bit of an issue with UFO where some of the characters I can't really connect to. There's like something of a disconnect between me and some of the characters, and I don't quite know how to describe it. One of the main focal characters in this movie, not Nozomi, Mizore, she had like her own arc in season 2 of UFO, and I wasn't particularly invested in it, but this movie focusing on her and her relationship with Nozomi was, you know, it got that investment from me. So like, if there's a season 3 of UFO and they're still featured characters in it, like, now I'll be more invested in their characters, because Nozomi also didn't really have a big presence in season 2 of UFO. She was the girl who quit the band and then wanted to come back. So it's not like she was irrelevant, like, she was there, but I don't know, just those were two characters who I had something of a disconnect with before, but Liz and the Bluebird sort of rectified that. I was able to watch this movie and, you know, understand their characters a bit better, and just the presentation, like, you could tell that this was, you could tell that it was, the soundtrack was by the same person who did the soundtrack for Koi no Katachi, for A Silent Voice, because immediately, like, as soon as the film begins, it's like, yep, this has got this guy's trademark, got his markings all over it. I would definitely say one of my favorite aspects of Liz and the Bluebird was the sound design, because, like, my favorite part of the film, well, I guess it's two moments, because it starts off where you're seeing Mizore, she's being shy and isolated, and she's on the staircase outside of the school, and then Nozomi comes in, and this music, this track starts going, and it's very upbeat, and it's in time with her footsteps, which is, at the time, like, even that's pretty cool. So that happens, and then at the very end of the film, that track ends up playing again, only this time, it's Mizore's footsteps that are in sync with the music. And what, basically throughout the entire film, is that Nozomi and Mizore, there's a disconnect there. I mean, obviously the story of Liz and the Bluebird is the parallel to Mizore and Nozomi. But what's really cool is that, like, they're out of sync for basically most of the film. And then at the very end, through the music, through the sound design, it's like the manifestation of them getting in sync, because now their footsteps are both in line with the music. They, you know, they're able to match that tempo. They are on the same page. They finally were able to bridge that disconnect, and that was so good. And there's a lot of good stuff in this film. Their relationship is cute and great and awesome. I was a bit skeptical going in of, like, the Liz and the Bluebird parallel, because it's like, oh, obviously, you know, it's Mizore and Nozomi, so they're gonna have to do something pretty cool with this to get my investment in this. I guess I was skeptical of that aspect going in, but then by the end, it was cool, because for the majority of the film, it's basically built up to be like, oh, Liz is this shy girl, and the Bluebird, I forget if the Bluebird had a name, but this bird girl comes in, and, you know, she's all upbeat and whatnot, and she changes her life. So it's obviously like, oh, Mizore is Liz and the Bluebird is Nozomi. But then, towards the end of the film, the dynamic flips. So they're both Liz, and they're both Liz and the Bluebird, or they're both Liz and both the Bluebird. It makes more sense. Like, obviously, I would have hoped that you've watched the film, because I'm spoiling it, but it was good. You need to watch it. UFO is good, and this film was really good. As a standalone, does it work as a standalone film? I don't know. Like, it kind of does, because most of the other cameos of the other UFO characters, they're just kind of, they don't really, like, take up center stage in the film. They're just kind of there, so it's like, oh, if you know these characters, then you're gonna understand, you know, their attitudes and whatnot. So they don't really play a significant impact on the story, except for, like, I don't remember their names, Natsuki and the other one, her partner person, the new chairman, or president of the thing, the band club. I forget her role, and I forget her name, but they're there, and, like, they get some focus, which is cool. They're probably my favorite duo in, yes, I know, I prefer those two more than Kumiko and Reina, but those two are good. I'm just rambling at this point. In theory, I guess you could watch this as a standalone film. Not that I'd recommend it, but it's not really dependent on the first two seasons of UFO. Like, the film is structured in a way that would work on its own. Like, there are some references to, like, Asuka Senpai, and if you've never seen the first two seasons of UFO, you're not gonna know who Asuka is. But it's also not, like, there's no specific plot point that is like, oh, you have to have this knowledge of Asuka, or you have to have this knowledge of Kumiko and Reina, because, like, they're there. That really is the case for a lot of characters, is they're all just kind of there, and the ones that are necessary for, like, the plot of the film, they get focused, but everyone else is just kind of, they're just kind of there. Not in a way that, like, they get in the way of the film, because it's like, oh, this is obviously just a cheap reference to the other's material, but I don't know. I would recommend watching all of UFO if you haven't already, but if you're not interested in UFO, but you're interested in this film, then I recommend it anyway, because it's good and maybe it'll change your opinion on Hibike Euphonium. Maybe you'll like it. If you like the silent voice, you're gonna love the sound design of this film. It's good. It's really good. Alright, so there's my rambling review on Liz and the Bluebird. It was a good movie. Then after that, yeah, right after that I met up with, well, because I tried to get into the Makia screening. A couple of us tried to get into the Makia screening. Didn't work out. But after that, I met up with the Pedantic Romantic and Zaria and Student of Ethereum and another girl named Haley. I forget what her Twitter is, so I'm sorry that I forget. But we met up with this group and we went out and we got some food, we got some dinner, and I had dinner with them, and that was nice. Again, it was more of an opportunity to hang out with other creators, because that's the big reason why I went there. Was for like the AniTuber meetup and to meet up with all these different creators and just, you know, obviously it's not all about just like putting the name to the face, because some of them I knew what they looked like, but to actually like meet them in person and get that tangible connection feeling, if that makes sense. It's not that I think that that's 100% necessary for online friendships, is like eventually you have to meet up in real life, because as I said in one of my previous videos about Nechi no Susume, you know, online connections, there's something you can get there. There are certain elements of online connections that you can't get in reality, where everything is tied to a name and a face and an identity. There's no anonymity there. But even so, like, meeting up with these creators, like meeting up with Taser Lad, Kraftsdorf, Manime Matt, Pedantic Romantic Zaria, meeting up with all these different people, it was still cool. It was cool to just have some time to hang out with these people, these creators, some people I'd even consider friends, and it was nice. It was a good time. So after that, they went back to their hotel, and I went back to the convention. Unfortunately, with the way everything worked out, I guess, like, when I say unfortunately, I don't mean that I regret, like, going and eating with them, because I had a lot of fun. It was just that, like, with the way events of the con were structured, some of the things I was interested in, I wasn't able to go to, which I think is perfectly fine, because, like, I missed the Makia screening, which I couldn't get into, so there's nothing I could do there. I missed the Super Eye Patch Wolf panel, which was honestly fine, because, like, I went to the Mother's Basement panel on that Sunday, and just with how many people are generally there, like, the Eye Patch Wolf panel was full. I mean, I think the Mother's Basement panel got capped too, so both were full, so, like, I was happy with the way that the events progressed in my day. But the reason why I bring up the Eye Patch panel is that once I got back from eating with them, I went back to the convention, and that was where I was going to meet up with Kraftsdorf and whatnot, because Kraftsdorf, I'm going to throw him under the bus here, because we were making fun of him all throughout the convention, but, you know, it's fair for, like, he doesn't really need to have a smartphone, except, like, this would be the one instance where he could use it. So he couldn't really, like, Uber back to the place, because he has a flip phone. That was the funniest thing, was when we were at the B&B on, like, Friday morning, and because Matt, Kraftsdorf, and I all went out together, we went to the convention together from the B&B, just to, like, save costs and whatever. So it was pretty funny that, like, Matt was like, okay, go ahead and call on the B&B, and Kraftsdorf was like, I can't. And he's like, what do you mean you can't? And then Kraftsdorf just pulls out his flip phone, and Matt's like, I see. So yeah, I met up with Kraftsdorf to, like, Uber back to the place, and he was still hanging out with Mr. Cynical, so we were just kind of chatting. But I waited for them outside of where the Eye Patch Wolf panel was, because by this point, the panel was over. So I just kind of sat there, because I was just walking around to see what I could find, to see if I'd find anybody. But I wanted to be at a spot where, like, they could meet up with me, because, like, they were coming back to the convention to meet up with me, so we could split off and go back and whatnot. So I just sat outside where the Eye Patch Wolf panel was, and it was actually kind of funny, because the panel was over, and there was just this, like, big crowd of people standing outside the room. And I looked over, and yeah, sure enough, there was Super Eye Patch Wolf just standing there talking to this crowd of people. And I gotta say, like, I guess there's sort of I almost want to say that Super Eye Patch Wolf was, like, too nice of a guy for his own good. Because on one hand, like, he was there, he must have been there, like, 2 hours after his panel was over, but he was still there talking with people. Like, there was like a crowd, a line of people waiting to just talk with him, to have a conversation, or just, you know, say, hey, I appreciate your videos, whatnot. Just these people who came there to that panel to see Eye Patch Wolf, and like we're dedicated fans of him. And you have to think that like he must have dedicated like the rest of that evening to that panel. Like, what if there was something else he wanted to go do? Who knows? But that's just, he seems like a really cool guy. I wasn't able to meet him at the convention, unfortunately, because I didn't want to wait in that line, because by the time we left, like, there was still, Mr. Cynical ended up getting in that line, and he said he must have waited for another 45 minutes to actually talk to the guy. So, like, on one hand, when I say, like, he might be too nice for his own good, like, all these people coming up to him, and I guess some people were having some, like, lengthier conversations with him, which, like, that's cool of Eye Patch Wolf to, like, talk to. I guess that's, like, I don't know. It's cool of Eye Patch Wolf to actually, like, talk with them, and, you know, they came there to see him, so he's not gonna be a prick about it and be like, oh, no, panel's over, I'm out, bye. Which, like, you know, could easily do, like, especially if he had other plans. Like, I think that'd be understandable to an extent. But no, he was there for like 2 hours after his panel, just chatting with people, and that was really cool. Unfortunately, I guess if you were stuck in the back of the line, then you had to wait like 2 hours after the panel, which is where, again, like I say, maybe at that point it's like you're too nice for your own good, guy, because all these people are having conversations with you. There might be some people in line that are just like, hey, you want to say hello, and I appreciate your content and whatnot and stuff. Yeah, Eye Patch Wolf, he seems like a pretty cool guy, because I just, like, I try to picture any other, like, if there's anyone else who would have a panel, like, would they be willing to wait, like, 2 hours after the panel's over just to stand there and talk with people who want to meet them? Would everybody do that? I don't know, but I think it's a nice gesture, so I gotta tip my hat to Super Eye Patch Wolf. He seems like a really cool guy. Maybe in the future I'll get to, maybe if he goes back to the next Anime Expo and I go back too, then maybe I'll get to see him then and talk with him then. But, yeah, he seems like a cool guy. Then came Saturday, which was the day that Craftsdorf and I recorded the Nen show. So we did that, and I don't know, I have mixed feelings on the live Nen show. For one, I think I was a little distracted, maybe. I don't know, I just don't think I was great on camera. I don't think I had a great on-camera presence for that. And then there's also the fact that, like, just the B&B was not a great place for it. Because there was one right next to us, and there were several times where the people over there were getting loud, because I guess a World Cup game was going on or whatever. It was a good, I don't know if we would both go back to anime, or like if we would ever go to a con in the future, and we're like, hey, let's do another live Nen show. I might say maybe not, just because I don't know if necessarily it was worth it, and that was a bit of time, like, taken away from actually going to the convention and having a chance to potentially see some other people. Like, it was a good experiment. I was glad that we did the live Nen show. I just don't know if it would be something else that I'd want to do again. But we got to talk about One Piece. We started the One Piece Nen show, so, subtle plug, go check out the Nen show if you're interested in One Piece. Yeah. So then after the Nen show was the AniTuber meetup. And this was the one part, like, not even really part of the convention, but this was a big reason why I went, because like I said, I wanted to meet up with creators. So this was what I was looking forward to the most, and it's actually kind of funny that it ended up being the most disappointing part of the convention for me. I'm not going to throw shade at any particular person, because I'd imagine there was a lot to consider with this, like figuring out how many people were going to be there and trying to get the place ahead of time. I think, from what I heard of last year's AniTuber meetup, was that towards the end, it turned into more of like a fan meetup, because once everybody started recognizing who everybody was. So I think they wanted to try to fix that this time by, like, meeting up in an actual place and, you know, getting down, just sitting down, having some food and whatnot, and actually just having that place sort of reserved to hang out. I just don't think, like, they didn't seem to know how many people were going to be there, because then we ended up getting, like, somewhere between, like, 30 and 40 people. And they were, like, asking, like, just a little before the meetup was like, okay, how many people are going to be here? Which already seemed like a bit of a red flag. So we went to this one place and couldn't get in because they didn't have enough seats, because there ended up being, like, 30, 35 of us or whatever. So we just kind of walked around, found another place. We ended up getting seated outside. And, like, eventually a space opened up, but this was, like, over the course of, like, an hour and a half. So we were all just kind of sitting outside. We just, like, they brought us some water, because, like, it didn't feel like it was planned out very well at all, which, again, I do want to give the clarification that, like, I don't know, like, there's a lot to consider. You want to try to plan something for like 30, 40 people, and it seemed like it was just kind of 1 or 2 guys doing it. So I don't want to say that like I was disappointed in it because this wasn't the environment that I was looking for. This wasn't the environment I expected it to be. But like at the same time, I don't want to say that like, oh, this was fine. Like I don't want to be dishonest that, you know, this was the thing I was looking forward to the most, and it was really disappointing. And also I think there were a bunch of people there who weren't even like anime YouTubers, which kind of defeated the point of the meetup, I think, because like it was the Anituber meetup. They did that last year at Anime Expo. They were gonna do it this year, but like there were all these people who weren't even anime YouTubers. So like if the point was to try to avoid like it's not that they were fans, but like they were just people hanging out with other people who were anime YouTubers or whatever. So like some people will be like, oh, I've made 1 video, I have 100 subscribers or whatever, or like I have a Twitter, I don't really do anime stuff. So it was weird. I wasn't super impressed with it. A bunch of people that I was there with, I know, weren't super impressed with it. A bunch of people just kind of dipped out once they realized how chaotic it was. Like, some of the people that I was looking forward to hanging out with there as well, they dipped out and left. There were some people who showed up for a little bit, but they either left because they were busy, they had other things to do, or they left because they saw how chaotic it was. So like, I didn't really get to talk to Super Eye Patch Wolf. He had showed up for a bit, but part of this is on me because I was too nervous to like, because like I was kind of trapped between this group of people and they were having a conversation, and I was too anxious to like I was too nervous to like interrupt the conversation just to walk over and, you know, chat with the guys. So that's on me. I was being too sheepish, which is my fault. Yeah, like Super Eye Patch Wolf showed up for a bit and then dipped out at some point, so I didn't get to talk to him. Mother's Basement showed up for a bit and then dipped out, so I didn't get to talk to him. Yeah, I didn't really get to meet up with... The only person I really ended up meeting from the Anituber meetup was What the What, and What the What's a pretty cool dude. It was cool meeting up with him. He recently made a Love Live video, an analysis of Love Live, about something he thinks is very undervalued or underappreciated in the community, and it was a good video, so I recommend that video because it was good. At the end of the meetup, I just ended up hanging out with people who I had already met up with before. So like, I don't know, the actual like once we finally got into the place and we were able to actually sit down and get some food, I should have just left because it wasn't a fun time for me. The place was very, like, the place we ended up going to was very loud, and like for a casual meetup, no, there was too much noise and it was messing with me, and we were like packed into the like 2 or 3 tables, and we were like all packed in there. So yeah, maybe I was getting a little claustrophobic too, because I was surrounded by like Craftsdorf was there and Mr. Cynical was there and What the What was there. These were people who I had been able to get in contact with. Taser Lad was there too, so like there were people there that I did know, but like, I don't know, we were all like in the same row, so like even though I was there with people that I knew, there were a bunch of people I didn't know and a bunch of people who weren't even like anime YouTubers. So I did, like, there was one guy there who I guess does like an abridged series on Parasite, so that was cool, like hearing his stories, that was neat. But at the same time, like, I knew quite a few creators who were going there, who were going to Anime Expo. Like, I know Roger Smith 2004 was there. Would have been cool to meet up with him. I just didn't really get the chance. So yeah, like, there were people who I knew were there. Like, I wanted to hang out with subtitled anime more, and I didn't get the chance to do that. Yeah, I don't really need to name off, like, literally everybody who I know was there, who I would have liked to hang out with, but yeah, I didn't get to really see any of them at this meetup, and didn't get to really hang out with them much at all. So I guess if there's anything I want to try to improve, I can just basically say that I do want to go back to next year's Anime Expo, and at this point I see no reason why I won't be able to. That's fingers crossed, knock on wood, that nothing happens between now and then. But I do want to go back, and I want to, like, what was cool about Anime Expo for me was that like, some of the people I met up with, like, I initiated sort of the interaction there. Like, Taser Lad, I saw that he was at the convention, I hit him up on Twitter, said, hey, do you want to meet up at this place tomorrow? And we did that. So, like, I was being, like, most of the interactions I had was me being more proactive, which is not, that's not me, generally. it put me out of my comfort zone, this Anime Expo, and I think that was really a really good experience for me, because it made me more outgoing. I wanted to meet up with certain people, and so I was proactive. I orchestrated, well, you know, like talking with people, saying, hey, do you want to meet up? You know, do you care if I join your group? Yada, yada, yada. So, like, some of that is on me. Like, I tried to extend the hand to hang out, and it worked. So that was good that I wasn't being, like, I didn't fix, it's not like I just corrected my shyness, because at the AniTuber meetup, part of that was my fault, was that I was too shy to break away from my group and go chat with someone else. So that was on me, but I think you know, to a degree, I was able to be more outgoing at this convention, and that was nice. Something I don't normally get to do. So yeah, the AniTuber meetup, it was the thing I was most excited for. I didn't think it was very good. Like, I'm sure some people would disagree with me, some people who are more, who are better suited for that atmosphere, where maybe it's a little more chaotic, but, you know, like, I'm not super outgoing, and I don't know, it just wasn't a good environment for me. Like, there were points where I felt like I was gonna have an anxiety attack just because of all the noise, and it had not turned out in any way close to what I was hoping it would. So there was that. Like, some expectations were not met, and just the environment, it wasn't the environment for me. So, I don't know, some people, like I said, some people who were more suited to that environment might have enjoyed it more, might have said that this was a really good AniTuber meetup, so that's fine for them. Just didn't really work for me, and I did kind of want to vent a little bit about that, because maybe I don't know, we'll see what happens next year, if there's another meetup, and we'll see what the circumstances are for that. Maybe it'll be better. So once the meetup ended, I pretty much just dipped out of there, because I just wanted to be gone. So I ended up hanging out then afterwards for a little bit with Taser Lad and Mr. Cynical and What the What and Craftsdorf. We just kind of stood around at this one place for, like, I don't know, maybe even like a good hour. We were just standing there talking about stuff. And then What the What had to leave, so then the four of us, we went to, like, some manga lounge, and we were there for like an hour. I picked up the first, like, chapter of Bakuman, which was, I guess, interesting. It was, I don't know, that was sort of a weird development, was that we just ended up going to the manga lounge, but it was kind of a good cool down after the chaotic, hectic AniTuber meetup, where it was good for me, because, like, we went there and it was quieter, and it was much more toned down than what the meetup ended up being. We were just hanging out there, chilling with some manga, just chatting. Then the last day, Sunday, Craftsdorf had to, cause he had a pretty long drive, so he wasn't able to stick around for the last day of the convention, because we had to get out of our B&B by Sunday was the last day we had it. So he couldn't really stay till Monday. Like, if we had the B&B for another day, he would have stayed and gone to that last day of the convention, but that just wasn't, that's just not how things worked out this time. So he left Sunday morning to drive back to his place, and then we packed up the B&B, got all the stuff together, and then we went back to the convention for a bit. This was where I finally was able to go to the dealer's hall and actually get some merch, because, like, other days my plans had gotten in the way. So, like, Friday, the Liz and the Bluebird screening, because the dealer's hall closes at 6 in the evening, so by the time the Liz screening was over, the dealer's hall, by the time I walked back over there from the JW Marriott, it basically would have closed. I would have had no time to actually get anything. So yeah, Thursday I wasn't able to do it because trying to figure out where everything was and get the B&B together. Friday I wasn't able to do it because of the Liz screening. Saturday I couldn't do it because of the AniTuber meetup, so that was also a bit of a disappointment with the meetup, was that if I had known it was going to be that bad, I could have just done something else, and I could have gone to the Artist Alley or Dealer's Hall and gotten some merch, so didn't get to do that, which, again, there is a benefit to that because I didn't spend a whole lot of money on merch, so that was a plus, but, you know, it's whatever. So Sunday, that was really the only day that I was actually able to go in and get some stuff, and even then I was a bit pressed for time, because I wanted to get in line for the Mother's Basement panel, just to do one last thing at the convention. So I really only got one, like, obviously I went to the Team 4-Star booth, got some merch. I got this shirt, so there was that. I got a Team 4-Star, like just the Team 4-Star logo shirt. And I got a Natural Wonders shirt, because their D&D campaign is good and fun, and I wanted to get that merch to show. I don't know. Although I was way too nervous going over there, because unlike with a lot of the other, like, for maybe some, I don't know, for someone like Super Eye Patch Wolf, maybe I was a little starstruck because I was too nervous to just go over and talk to him. But most of the AniTubers, I didn't really have that sort of like, oh, this is one of my idols or whatever. Like, you know, to have that, like, you feel like you're meeting someone super important. Because, like, with AniTubers, they're just normal people. They're just people making videos on the internet. I'm one of them. So, like, I'm nothing special, so none of these other AniTubers really are anything special. With Team 4 Star, it was different, though. Because, like, I've been following their content for 8 years, since 2010. And I would definitely say that they are part of an inspiration for me wanting to do YouTube in the first place, wanting to create something that can make people laugh, something that will entertain people, something that can distract them from whatever they've got going on in their lives. So I was very nervous going over to this booth and finally talking to them, because, like, even the first day, that Thursday, I probably could have gotten in line and gotten some stuff, but I didn't want to get separated from my group because I knew we'd have to leave by a certain point to go back to the B&B and whatnot. And also, just, I was nervous. Like, just seeing the people at the booth, like, actually seeing these people in person was really cool. And with Team 4 Star, there's something different with them, because it's not just, like, yeah, they're normal guys, but they've got a cool story where they started off just making this abridged parody, just making Dragon Ball Z abridged, this weird, silly internet series, and now they've evolved into, like, a business. They're, like, Team 4 Star, they've got a studio, like, they hire people to work with them and, like, edit and whatnot, so, like, they're a whole, like, company now, which is, it's cool that, like, that is, like, an internet success story. Like, they start off just making this internet abridged parody, and now they're, like, they're like an actual, this big group, which is, it's cool to see that level of success, like, starting from humble beginnings, to use the cliche, and then just jumping up to where they are now. It's cool to see that they've gotten that far. And yeah, I guess that did make me a little nervous. I was a little starstruck going up to them. What was cool was, like, the first day, someone, like, took a video of Lanny doing his Vegeta impression, which was cool, and I was just, like, I was a little ways back, so I was, like, right there as he did that, and that was neat. I didn't, like, I talked to Grant a little bit. I didn't talk to Lanny really at all, because I was, like, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything to say, and I was just nervous, so I was like, I'll just move along in the line. Antfish was there, I think that's who that was. I'll feel bad if it wasn't, but I'm pretty sure that's who it was. Takahata 101 was there. So I got some signatures on the Natural Wonder shirt, got some signatures on the Team 4 Star shirt, and then I had a bit of a conversation with Kaiser Neko, and Kaiser's probably my favorite member of the TFS crew. Like, with Lanny, I was more nervous, I think, because with him, there's just something larger than life about him. I don't know what it is, but, like, I don't, like, he's a chill dude, but, I don't know, like, maybe it's just, like, the characters he's impersonated, like, you know, his Vegeta, his Krillin, whatnot. I don't know, there's just something about him that, like, he just feels more, I don't know how to describe it, but, like, something about Lanny, like, he just feels more, I don't know what it is, I don't know how to describe it, so I'll just not try to describe it. But Kaiser, because he's, like, the editor of DBZA, and, you know, like, his episode breakdowns were pretty insightful, and, yeah, so it was cool. I got to talk with Kaiser for a bit, got a fist bump, which was, it was cool. Kaiser's a cool guy. So yeah, if I go to any other convention and Team 4 Star is there again, I'll have to try to rectify my mistake here and not be as nervous and actually maybe get some conversations in, because, yeah, there was a line there, so, like, obviously I couldn't spend too much time talking to them, and even, like, just because there isn't a line doesn't mean that, like, I have to talk their ear off, because I'm sure they'd want some downtime, because, like, with how packed that thing was, I'm sure you'd want a little, like, you'd want some moments to breathe if you can get it. So yeah, that was the TFS booth. I got my shirts, and then I pretty much just had to duck out of there to get in line for the Mother's Basement panel. We waited in line for about an hour to get into Jeff's panel at 12:30. We ended up getting seats at, like, the very front row. So if you look at Mr. Nice Guy's Twitter, he took, like, there are images from the panel, and you can see that Matt and I are, like, front row, over to the left. I'll probably have the picture on screen, but like we're there, which is kind of cool. Just a couple of casual YouTubers, just casual what? Couple of anime YouTubers just casually photobombing the panel. I don't know. So we were there for Jeff's panel. It was pretty good. I had a question I was gonna ask, but I sort of thought of it towards more so the end of the panel, so I didn't really get the chance to actually ask it. So that was a little unfortunate, but you know, if he has another panel or something, I'll maybe try to get him again. Otherwise, it was a neat panel. There were just, I think this will be the case for any AniTuber panel, where sometimes you'll get people who ask questions that seem kind of obvious to like answer. Like if you've done any sort of, if you've looked into this creator at all, you would know the answer to this question. But I guess not everybody is like the dedicated fan like that. Like, not to say they're not dedicated, but like maybe they just watch a couple of videos from this creator, and like that's fine. You can still call yourself a fan if you only watch a couple of things. Like if you only watch Jeff's SAO videos, like even if that's all you watch, I don't think that like you can't call yourself a fan of Mother's Basement. But I don't know, like I don't know, so that'll be interesting, like going to a YouTuber panel, a digital influencer panel, and just like seeing how it goes, being there in person to see how it operates. It does make me kind of interested, like, you know, could I ever be in that position one day? And like, if I was, what would I do? I don't know, it's just interesting to be there and to like see how this operates. And then you had other people who were there with Jeff, like you had Baron J, you had Mr. Nice Guy was there, you had Evangeline, and then you had the person who runs the Jeff Through Rumors, which like, you know, ignoring him, because like obviously I don't think he's ever shown his face in anything, so I wouldn't have recognized him. But like the other three, I knew who they were, and it made me kind of wonder like how many of these people actually know who these other three creators are, because like I'm not even the biggest Mother's Basement fan, but like I was able to recognize these people, and I was like, does that make me a more informed Mother's Basement fan than these other people? I don't know. Now I feel like I'm just being pretentious. Yeah, it was actually kind of funny because the very first day of the convention, we just happened to bump into Baron J randomly. Like we were just getting into the convention, and Matt's like, hey, are you Baron J? And that was cool. I didn't talk to him at all because Matt was talking to him and he was in a hurry, so didn't need to interject myself there. But yeah, got to see these people. Then the panel ended and everybody was going up to talk to Jeff, and I guess I could have tried to like sneak my way in to be like talking to Baron J, talking to Mr. Nice Guy. I really only ended up talking to Evangeline, which was still cool, because again, like even if I wasn't super impressed with the panel, which like I enjoyed the panel, so there was no problems really there, but it was a good experience for me, if for no other reason than I was able to meet up with another one of the people that I knew was at the convention that I was interested in getting in touch with. So yeah, did I need to go to the Mother's Basement panel? I don't know, but that, if nothing else, like that benefited me, and that I was able to find her, so that was cool. And then that panel ended. I didn't even want to bother trying to get in line to talk with Jeff because I knew what had happened with Eye Patch Wolf just 2 days before. And I was like, I don't think we have the time to spare. Like, we were in the front row, so if I really wanted to talk to Jeff, if I, like, bolted up there, I probably could have, but wasn't that big of a deal. And that was Anime Expo. I enjoyed it a lot. It was, like, there's a very low bar to clear for this with me, because I'm not a very adventurous person, but I do not hesitate to say that that was one of the best experiences of my life. It had its it had its negatives, it had its cons. The con had cons, who would have thought? But yeah, it was a good experience. I was really glad I went. I am eager to go back again next year, see if I can find any new people. I wasn't recognized at this con, which I think is fair, because like I've only ever put my face in the March Madness videos and like that one FMA video and now this one, so, and none of those videos really performed exceptionally well, so I'd imagine like not everyone from my audience who watches my videos would know my face, and that's fine, because I did like, I think the extreme of that, where like somebody, like if you're a Giguk or an Aki Dearest or the Anime Man, where you've hit a certain level of success where like, imagine just like walking around the con and being noticed, like, every 5 or 10 steps. Like, that seems a little ridiculous. So I'm not gonna knock my sort of anonymity at the moment. Like, nobody recognized me, and that's fine. I know Manime got recognized, I think, a couple times. Nobody recognized me, and that's fine for now. Cause like, it would be cool to just have someone be like, oh hey, I watch your videos, I know who you are. But it's not like it's something I'm begging for. It's not something I'm like, oh my god, nobody recognized me, blah. I guess that would be one of the benefits of being an internet celebrity, is that in the real world, nobody knows who you are. So like, you can still go out and be anonymous and not have to worry about, you know, like going to the grocery store, and you know, you're not like an actual celebrity where like you can't go anywhere without somebody, you know, probably noticing who you are, and you can't operate as a normal person anymore because you're too much of a celebrity. But like as an e-celeb, you have that where like you're still anonymous in, you know, out in the world. But if you go to like a convention like this, like if you're an anime YouTuber and you go to a con like this, then like you're like, people know who you are, and like, so you kind of get the best of both worlds, where like you get the cool factor of like being noticed and people knowing who you are, but at the same time, it doesn't like infect your everyday life. It's not so toxic to the point that you can't function like a normal human being. You can kind of get both, which is, it's sort of cool. And it's weird to think that like maybe one day that could be me, but then again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anime Expo was fun. I'm going back next year. If you're gonna be going to Anime Expo next year, maybe we'll get to bump into each other, and I don't know, it'll be a good time, probably. And I've gone on, this video ended up being a lot longer than I wanted it to be, because I just ramble all the time. But we're done. Regular videos are gonna come back. Like, this is, we had I did the Let's Talk About Me, I did the anime cipher, this is the end. Like, we're going back to normal videos after this. Like, I've had my time, made my rhymes. Why? What have I done? Well, anyways, thank you for joining me for this video, and I will catch you next time.